His Adesaka will not have a chance to get through. Crutchlow is the winner.
Okay, let's begin.
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Superbike Show. My name is Lester. This is Motorsport Radio. We're here on a Wednesday. Unusually so for us. Usually here on a Thursday, but we're here tonight to talk about everything that happened at the weekend. Wow. And yeah, I think you know what's coming already, because if Facebook and Twitter are anything to go by, we'll probably easily fill out not just the first 2 hours of this show, but also probably another 6 hours as well, just on reading your comments alone. Because we are live right now tonight on the Facebooks, on the website motorsport.radio, and on Twitter, on is Periscope still a thing? We're live on there, live on YouTube, live everywhere, and we want to know your comments tonight. Very important. Let us know. It's at M-Sport Radio on Twitter. You can get in touch with us directly on Facebook. It's Motorsport Radio on Facebook. And you can even email as well. Not many people do, but yes, email. It's hello@motorsport.radio. Tonight on the show, we have got two brilliant guests, hopefully. I say hopefully because one of them is in a famously dodgy phone area. We'll be getting Glenn Irwin on the show a little later, and again, hopefully, I say hopefully, I really hope that we can welcome James Rispoli onto the show a little later on the show. So if you've got any questions for either Glenn or James, let us know. It's at M-Sport Radio on Twitter, Motorsport Radio, or you could just add your comment on the comments section of this live stream. Let us know where in the world you are listening and on what. If you're listening on a phone, on a tablet, on your laptop, on your desktop, and in which country as well, because we know people around the world do tune in to Motorsport Radio. So, yeah, welcome and thank you. Joining us tonight, as ever, please welcome onto Superbike Show, please welcome Mr. Kiko Giles. Hello there, Kiko.
Good evening. Wow, where to start this show, because I think we actually need a whole show dedicated to the Argentine Grand Prix.
I just literally said that.
Phenomenal. That was phenomenal. Like, I don't even know where to start myself with that, but I'm sure we'll find a way somehow.
Yeah, Kiko was hyperventilating on as he was watching the events live, understandably so, because I think I'm a bit like you, to be honest, Kiko. I just don't even know where to start. However, because this show is so well put together and structured, we have written down a starting point for tonight's show, because literally so much to talk about. Shall we start? Shall we tease you and get on to MotoGP a bit later? Let's start off with Moto3, shall we? And yeah, it was talk about what happened in regarding because the controversy didn't just start in MotoGP race, didn't it? It was all the way in was it free practice or quali? That was it. Aaron Canet. Yes, Canet. Tell us about that. What happened?
Well, I mean, it's a strange one, really, because I can't remember the last time that MotoGP race direction got more or less everything wrong. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it was a very... I kind of got...
I don't mean this in a bad way, but you were absolutely terrible.
Shambles. No, it started from FP1 with Makayachenko, young Kazakh rider, to come up into the championship this year from the CEV and the Red Bull Rookies. Quite a fast rider as well in those classes. So obviously he's coming to Argentina for the first time ever, and he needs to learn the track. So he's not going to push too hard. Now, he got caught up with an incident with Aaron Canet earlier on, before the actual big incident took place.
Because I didn't actually see this live. I only heard about it when I joined to watch the actual race on the Moto 2. So I didn't watch any of the practice and stuff. So just tell us exactly what happened in the most dramatic way possible.
Well, basically, he hit him. That is literally what he did. He came across Aaron Canet, obviously furious about being held up, and at turn 12, it's kind of like a fast kink before hitting like a right-handed hairpin, which proved quite controversial, but we'll get onto that in a bit with Marquez and Rossi. And yeah, Caddick just stood the bike up, rode across the line, and took Makayachenko out. I don't think he intentionally meant to make both of them crash, but what's he doing? It's free practice 1. So I, along with more or less anyone with a brain cell, thought, well, he's obviously going to get a penalty. A pit lane start or a back of the grid start. Some people calling for a race ban because it's just not on. And race direction did nothing. So Aaron Canet must have the best lawyers or solicitors in the world to get out of that one.
Because I didn't see it, just tell me what the difference between that was and what Marquez did later that weekend in MotoGP.
Wow. They're very different incidents. I don't believe that either of them incidents were to
the first barge by Marquez, that was probably the worst. It didn't result in anybody going down, but it was probably the worst in terms of lunge forward. And with the thing with Rossi, he sort of kind of looked up the inside and kind of slid into it, and then kind of, it was a half racing incident, half accident type thing. But we'll get onto that in detail anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure either of them were accidents, to be fair. I mean, that's not trying to be controversial or pro Rossi or anti Marquez. I do not think Marquez has eyes. Okay, now to me, he must have seen that he was going quicker than the riders ahead of him. Why lunge like that? Traditional situation, just red mist came down because we had that awful start to the Grand Prix. I mean, it's the most controversial Grand Prix I can remember, where so much happened, not just on track with Marquez and Rossi, but after the event with Aleix Espargaro, Danilo Petrucci, Xavier Simeon.
We'll get onto
all that later
on. See, he's chomping at the bit just to get talking about it. Go on. All
of these things pulled together in one whole event, as well as the start of the race. Oh,
you all right there?
1 minute.
Kiko Giles there. The same man who choked on water.
Anyway,
carry on.
But what I'm saying is all these rivalries have suddenly either come back up, so the Rossi Marquez one, or they have formed with Aleix Espargaro, who falls out with anyone who, well, I don't know, breathes. So, and then you've got the race organisation from free practice on the Friday. That was a little bit left to be desired. And then the race, the actual start of the race. What on earth was going on? Seriously, I mean, if you're not happy with the tyres you chose, well, wait then until the first lap is over with, come in and change them to what you think now is the right tyre for the conditions.
Can we just... I think because so much happened, I honestly do think that we need to perhaps go through incident by incident in chronological order and not skip from, controversy to controversy. Now, I'm going to presume that not everybody who's tuned into the show actually watched, because not everybody has BT Sport, not everybody's yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to presume that not everybody's seen it. All right. They might have just seen the fallout and the speculation and all the arguments on Twitter. But set us up then. Tell us how that iconic image, which we'll try and find in a short while for you, of Jack Miller sat on his own on the grid, and the race is about to start with only one man sat on the grid, and he's looking around, he's waving his arms, he's thinking, what the hell is going on? We were all wondering what the hell was going on. How did that situation come about?
Well, it all started, if we're going to go properly through it, we'll start with qualified. Jack Miller was one of a few riders who stuck it out with a dry tyre on a drying track. The Termas de Rio Hondo circuit didn't dry as quick as they thought, so a lot of the other riders who tried that moved on to wet tyres. Jack Miller stayed out, took pole position on that dry tyre. Now, besides the Moto3 race, the Moto2 race was dry. So, after the Moto2 race on Sunday, it started raining. A lot of teams thought, we'll play it safe, we'll go to the grid on wet tyres, and they left them on right until the cut-off point for making changes. So what's then happened is, you can imagine, there's 24 riders on the grid, 23 of them in a mob rule fashion take their bikes, the teams take everything off the grid and go to pit lane to make the changes, set up changes, make it a dry set-in, make it into dry tyres. And Jack Miller is the only one who made the correct decision. Him and his Pramac Ducati team were the only ones who made the correct decision to go on to dry tyres.
Yeah.
And it may have been a gamble, but they still made that gamble, which turned out to be the right gamble. So why then, when we have flag-to-flag rules, would you adapt to suit the 23 that didn't take the right risk? That baffles me, because what you've then done is Jack Miller could have got a 15-second lead on that opening lap with the dry tyres on. Then they would have had to come into pit lane, change bikes, add on another 25 seconds. Jack Miller probably would have won that race by a long way. So why change? Why did the organisers allow that to happen? I know they have very little control when it is literally most of the grid coming over. I accept that. However, Jack Miller didn't do anything wrong. And then the worst, here we are, if you're watching visually, the image of Jack Miller on his own, on the front row, because what the race organisers decided to do after that was to give him a 50-metre head start. They started the grid 4 rows further back. And as you can see on the grid, if you're watching visually, you got Marquez, Pedrosa, Zarco, the Suzuki of Rins, Tito Rabat.
I've never seen anything quite like it. Maybe
keep looking back. You've got Cal Crutchlow, and then you've got Alicia Spargo, Valentina. That is how far the grid went back. Now, that to me, it was a little bit like, and I don't want to bring four wheels into a bike show. But it was a bit like Formula One in Indianapolis. I think it was 2005.
Oh, you stole my tweet. Shut up.
No,
that was exactly what I said. I said this. I said on Motorsport Radio Twitter. I said this is very reminiscent of Indianapolis 05, when there was a huge disagreement with tyres and yada yada, mostly on safety grounds.
Yep.
Slightly different conditions. It wasn't just because of the weather, but. Yeah, there was, I think on that occasion, 6 cars on the grid, and it was a total shambles, and loads of people started booing and throwing things onto the track during the race, albeit 6 cars. But in some ways, I kind of feel a little tiny bit sympathetic for the organisers, because when everybody, apart from Miller, stormed off the grid with their bikes, they were expecting him to do the same, and, well, he didn't, because if he had, then there probably would have been there wouldn't have even been the issue. Everyone would have just put on their slicks, presuming Miller wasn't on the slicks at the time, and started the race in the normal procedure. That in itself was wrong, but what they did, because then there was a huge discussion with all the team managers, all the team bosses, team principals on the grid, thinking, well, geez, what do we do now? Do we start the race? And you could, I mean, the commentators at the time were trying their best to be diplomatic, whilst we could certainly, we could, understand what they were getting at. That this is basically a massive shambles. And I think Keith Hewing was saying it at the time as well, wasn't he? But yeah, it was... Well,
it is, though. It is. I mean, you don't expect that from a world championship, do you, really? You don't expect a British championship. So to get it so wrong...
What else could they have done, though? I mean, because everybody...
played by the rules. Played by the rules.
Yeah, but I mean, to have almost an entire field start in pit lane, where it was slippy and everyone was on slick tyres, to have an entire massive field thunder out of a narrow little pit lane into turn 1, of course you're going to have...
See, they wouldn't have done that, though, because we had that situation similar when a load of riders came in 2014 at the Saxon Ring, and they came into pit lane, and it was literally a mad rush. If you watch the Northwest 200, we'll get onto that later when Glenn Irwin's on, you'll see that it was like going off in waves. The first wave went off the grid. Stefan Bradl, a bit like Jack Miller, was all on his own on the front of the grid, but there was other riders behind in normal fashion. The others just was scurrying out pit lane. So what they brought in then was a rule to say that you start from pit lane in single file, and that's how it'll be.
Well, that's what I suggested.
But again, that's a dangerous situation, because then you've got mechanics, you've got riders, you've got the bikes, all eager to get out of pit lane. And if it has been raining, what part of the track's going to dry the slowest? It's going to be the pit lane, because there's nothing going on down there. There'll be bikes going around the track, but there'll be very few coming down pit lane. Unless you're Mark Marquez, who happened to get a load of penalties. But you know, and we'll come on to that now. We thought that controversy was all we'd see, and Keith Ewan said at the top of the race.
Oh dear.
What more can we see?
I mean, yeah, we were already sort of exasperated and out of breath by the time the race actually got to its got to the starting grid, the second start of the second grid start. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we were already out of breath then, only for Marc Marquez to stall on the grid and take it away from there. What happened?
Well, it's a difficult one because I'm no expert on the rules here, okay? But the common consensus is that when you stall a bike on a grid, the International Race Teams Association personnel, they come over, the IRTA personnel, come over and tell you to either get to the side of the track or go in pit lane. It's happened before. Carol Abraham in Misano 2012. What Marquez decided to do was he'd utilised the 3 empty roads that were now ahead of him before they got to Jack Miller, and he would bumper start his bike. Now he did that, then he turned around in the direction of traffic, opposite the direction of traffic, so he was fully facing head on with the riders on the other side, opposite him.
Yeah, he rode down the grid, basically.
Exactly. He rode the opposite way down the grid, then turned right, parked up behind Alex Rins, and for those of you watching on visual here now, he's getting off, now wheeling his bike back into its original starting position. There's the IRTA personnel there as well. And it was just unbelievable.
He was trying to drag Marquez off because he knew what to do. Marquez sort of just brushed him off, rode down the thing, got it started eventually, and then, as you say, rode down the grid, which instant black flag in any motorsport. I mean, right there. I mean, if I was race control, if I was the race director, I would have said, you know what, let's just do this right. No messing about. Marquez, we're going to delay the start again. Marquez, get off. Don't ever do that. Bit of a fine for you. Start in the pit lane or go home. Whatever. That's what I would have done, personally.
Well, we've had something very similar. I can't remember exactly who it was. I think it was Bradley Smith at Silverstone. He rode down the pit lane the wrong way, and he was really, I think he got a fine and the back of the grid start, but that was in qualifying. I mean, I couldn't believe what we were seeing. I honestly couldn't believe that had been allowed to go. Marc Marquez said in his media debrief after that, well, the rules and regulations and all this, and the marshal said to go back to the starting point. But he's been in Grand Prix long enough to surely understand.
I mean, everybody knows.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the only reason I think he tried to do that, right, and might be a bit of a conspiracy theory here, but I think he tried mugging race direction off a bit because they'd had such a bad weekend.
He knew they were already flustered.
Exactly. Yeah. He knew that, well, what have I got to lose? Because Aaron Canet got away with the most deliberate crash I've ever seen in my racing career. That's what he's thinking, not me. I don't race. And then you've got the start, where they basically bent the rules to allow everyone to start on the grid. The one good thing that came out of that, well, just nipping back to the restart, was that the fans actually got a proper start. You know, they could have had them all coming out pit lane, and it would have been a very boring race. And then you would have got the fans probably throwing bottles of beer on the track. Luckily, we didn't have that, but it was hardly much better. And then again, the controversy continued after. Unbelievable.
Yeah, certainly. And, well, we've gone through 20 minutes and we've not even got to the start of the race yet. So, it's pretty unbelievable. Firstly, I want to know your opinions if you're tuned in live.
Yes.
Do you feel that the race should have been started the way it was? Could it have been delayed to throw Marquez basically off the grid, as should have been the procedure? Other race direction potential mistakes, however you perceive it, aside, should that have happened? Should it have started on time with just one man on the grid? Miller, let us know your thoughts. I think we did a couple of polls on social media at the time. Almost unanimous verdict of around 90 or 94% or something. I forget what it was. I don't have the stats in front of me here. But a large amount of people all agreed that the race should have gone ahead at the specific time, regardless. I mean, if you're not on the grid at the time of the scheduled race, which everybody knows about, that's your fault. Yeah. And a race direction basically caved in to the will of the people, and it could happen again.
It was a little bit like, and this is way before my time, but 1989 at Mazzano.
Oh, yeah.
Frankie Keely's only race win in Grand Prix. And that was, again, the mob rule. No rider wanted to go out in the wet weather. I mean, it wasn't like that. It wasn't the fact that no rider wanted to race.
Well, how wet was it? I don't know.
Well, it wasn't that way. It was dry enough for dries. That's what the whole protest was. But to go back into pit lane, get on the dry tyres, and, well, we have flagged. It was declared a wet race. This is the thing that annoyed most people. We've got a comment here from Jawad Mustafa. He says the race was started as it should have said in the rule books. Nearly, because the race was declared a wet race. Yeah. Now that to me says
it wasn't declared a dry race, was it?
No. It was declared wet before the actual protest. We got underway, and that, to me, suggests that you can start on wet tyres, and if you feel the conditions are right enough to change, you come in and change to dry tyres.
I thought a lot of people would have done that, and I mean, that's obvious. That's just an obvious thing to do, even if it is a massive pit stop race. Then what's wrong with that?
Problem is, I mean, had someone like, I suppose, Valentino Rossi or Marc Marquez stayed out on the grid with Jack Miller, I think we would have been seeing a different story. I honestly think that. I just think it was because it was Jack Miller, not a championship contender. Why does that matter? I think that's a bit how the organisers felt about it. I just think, well, why does that matter? Why do we need to adhere to our rules when we've got, I don't mean to say I'm nasty, but someone who's not in the running for this series at the front of the grid? Why does it matter? Why do we have to do that? It's...
So the rules are only equal, or the rules are more equal for some people than others. And if you're Jack Miller, then I suppose they kind of tried to do the best they could by starting everyone about 3 rows back. Or maybe they should have just given him, like, what I would... I mean, again, thinking... I'm trying to see both sides of it. I mean, the race official's in a pretty bad situation in that Miller won't get off the grid. And he's got every right to stay on the grid, because that's
the race.
Yeah,
that's
basically. It's not his fault that there's only one man on the grid, and that's him.
We get a photo.
But I've only got this one man, and this was when Marquez was having his troubles. But what I would have done is started Miller 1 lap ahead, giving him a lap head start. He probably would have won the race. He might have he could have fell off. The rain could have come down even harder. Whatever. But it wasn't his fault, and just by giving him 3 rows head start, obviously it turned out to not be enough. But yeah, everybody feeling very sorry. Do you disagree? Are you tuned in right now and thinking, Lester, Kiko, shut up? What happened was totally fair. My guy won in the end. We'll get on to that later. Or my guy was doing pretty well. And I don't care about Miller. Tell us your thoughts. We want to know. Use the comment box in this stream below. It's at M-Sport Radio on Twitter, where we are also streaming right now, live. It's the Superbike Show on a Wednesday, usually a Thursday, on Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Kiko Giles is here with us, and Jenny Darter has been in touch. Hello, Jenny. Thank you for tuning in. Jenny says, Marquez is ruthless, LOL, winky face. Reminds her of Richard Holmes Williams, who does the Cool Fab Racing Mini Bikes Championship. Apparently, Richard Holmes Williams is quite ruthless. I think that might rumble into round 2 in a couple of weeks' time. Jenny, I think
Play Pigeon, of course, 27th to the 29th of April at Dorset. Come and join us. If you're watching and you're a racer, come and join us in the Commerce booth. We could do with some talent up there.
Live coverage on motorsport.radio, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
We want to. Simon Hall's been on as well. Okay. Hello, thank you for tuning in. He wants to know what Stuart Higgs' opinion on this is, and that's a good point actually, because I think I saw some tweets about this. I'm just trying to get his Twitter back up about what he thought of the whole shambles. While
you're doing that, I'll just quickly run through Moto 2 because we haven't actually scheduled that into the results. Marco Bezzecchi was a first-time winner Sunday. The 49th Italian to win a 125cc or Moto3 race. That's not my statistic. That is Martin Reigns' statistic. So, yeah, Marcos Bezzecchi, what a race. That was brilliant. I actually did have a little flutter with him, actually. I did have it on as a combination on B-Win. Other sites are available, but Marco Bezzecchi would win, and he did.
You just reminded me something about the predictions, actually. We'll get onto that later.
And Moto 2 was a thrilling race, like MotoGP, with Mattia Pessini coming out on top. His second Moto 2 win in the space of a year, and he needs a title. When was the last time Mattia Pessini led a championship? But while I say come on to MotoGP being a great race, the good thing is that had they gone on like Miller off the hook at the start of the race, may have been deserved, but British bias aside, we wouldn't have had a great race for the lead.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that was a
hell of a battle at the front of the field.
It was a classic, really. I mean, yes, it was slightly strange, but I mean, when racing's happened, we don't really care how it sort of came about. We just care that good racing has happened, and there was so much. To be honest, I'm glad you've wrote a couple of notes down anyway, because I'd certainly struggle to recall everything that happens on a good day, usually.
We know.
Yeah. It was, a 50-metre start for Miller. What was the first big incident? I think it was Marquez and Aleix Espargaro. I can never say his name.
Aleix Espargaro, or Aleix, depending on who you are.
Yeah, was that the first big incident, or was this that was the first controversial incident? Well, no, it wasn't.
That was the first, because we had the Marquez ride through, but that was more or less a given with his antics on the start line. But you'd think that someone who's lapping 2 or 3 seconds a lap quicker.
No, he actually got. Did he get the drive? He got the ride through penalty first of all, didn't he? That put him at the back.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So he's going 2 or 3 seconds a lap faster than those directly ahead of him, and then he goes and rides through someone. I mean, you can make dodgy passes and get away with them, but you cannot literally ride into the side of someone.
It was
not that early on in the race when it's not for anything important. There was no need. All he did was damage his own race because he got penalised. He had to drop a position.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
That was the first one. And whilst we're just on that point, sorry to jump in over you, Lester. While we're still on that point, Aleix Espargaro had another altercation with Danilo Petrucci, who he is forever slating. I must say, I'm getting bored of Aleix Espargaro at the moment. But he's forever having a go at Danilo Petrucci. Danilo Petrucci put a bit of a risky move on him. Yeah, well, that's fine. Aleix Espargaro said that Petrucci hit him harder. Now, I'm not Aleix Espargaro. I can't say who hit him harder. But you just think, gee, you're basically defending Marquez. And it just throws the whole thing into another, into another pool of opinions and who sides with who. It's just such a difficult one.
It's there were a lot of handbags at the weekend. Actually, I'm recalling that the elbows from everybody, it wasn't actually the first incident. If you remember, Pedrosa did a massive high side, and he underwent surgery today or late yesterday on his right wrist in Barcelona. So he's obviously made it back home. He suffered an intra-articular fracture of the right distal radius. Ooh, sounds painful. What is that? Just a broken hand?
I think it's just an elaborated way of saying it's a wrist injury. Looks like he'll miss Austin. Now, while we're on that subject, again, the people of the Twitter sphere and Facebookistan have opinions, and a lot of them saying that Zarco, for his move on Pedrosa, should have been penalised. Slight difference with that. Zarco's move was risky, yes, but it was fair. It was harsh but fair.
What was the difference exactly, though?
Difference was Pedrosa crashed because he got on the power too quickly. It was not because Johann Zarco did not ram him off the track. He didn't ram him off the track. Pedrosa decided to tap in the power on the wet patch, and that's what binned him. So Yeah, I think people say, well, Johan Zarco was a dodgy move. But he never made contact. He just ran Pedrosa out a little bit wide. And if you're on the outside, I'm afraid you're going to have to, when you're behind, you're going to have to find a way of avoiding the rider, because Johan Zarco, as late as he left it, made it to the apex first.
Do you agree? Are you tuned in right now live? If so, get your comments to us. We will probably read them out if they're nice and clean, even if they're not, and they're saying you're allowed to disagree with what Kiko says. He is not the Messiah. He does often. What?
Oh, sorry, I've got a comment. Thank you for the noticing of my haircut. Daniel McInnes has commented on my personal share, so thank you for noticing that. I did the. He just wanted to
mention that.
I got in the way as well.
Yeah. So Kiko's had his haircut, and I've not. He just wanted to mention that. Also, as well, thank you very much for the kind comment, Jenny Darter, as well, regarding the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championships. Great commentary.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we'll sort of dip into that again, probably next week's show, a bit more in detail. But yeah, your comments very welcome on tonight's show. Loads to talk about. I think we're up to like laps 5 or 6 in the Grand Prix.
Before James Rasmussen comes on, I suppose we better get on with the actual major incident, and that was Marc Marquez ramming Valentino Rossi. Now, people are going to tell me, Marquez, he went for the move, he was on the inside. Yeah, how far back did he come from? Marc Marquez came from Chile to make that move. I tell you, he was so far away by the time he was in the braking area. He had no option but to hit Valentino. Had Valentino not been there, Marquez would have certainly either run on or lost the front trying to turn the corner.
It was a PlayStation move, wasn't it?
It was ridiculous. He was losing the front on the way in. There was absolutely no room. Valentino Rossi's on the racing line, and this is we'll come on to it in a minute, about the corner itself, the characteristics and so on. But Rossi's on the racing line. He is already tipping in to the corner. He's already making an apex. Boom! In comes Marquez, takes him clean off, and Marquez has the cheek then to run it right out to the edge of the grass, then turn in. By the time he scrubbed off all the speed, that shows how reckless the move was. And by then, Rossi's on the grass, on wet grass because it's been raining, and falls over in sympathy, really. And it just, when I saw that, if you're watching visually, there you go, Valentino. That was the move just as it happened. You just wonder what was going through Marquez's head. Valentino Rossi said after in his media debrief that he was struggling. Valentino was struggling. Marquez didn't need to do that. Why didn't he just make a clean pass down at turn 1? And obviously that just reignited that. I mean, because it was a harsh. It wasn't even harsh. It was a ridiculous move. It was to use a James Ellison quote from earlier in James Spade's live stream, it was a dick move. That's what it was. And unfortunately, Marquez ain't done himself any favor. I mean, if you look here, Valentino's. If you take away the fact he's now off the bike, more or less, where's Marquez going there?
Although
you can see how out of control he is there.
Well, they're kind of both out of control. Marquez is looking like he's having a bit of a slide.
One's out of control. The other's out of control because someoone made him out of control. Well, Valentino had nowhere to go then. I mean, Marquez did this as well to Vinales in free practice or qualifying. Just steamed up the inside at turn 5, which is a flat camber hairpin. And just, I mean, Vinales was luckily going a bit wide anyway. So, it just unbelievable. It was just one of them clashes that, again, just threw up the whole Valentino Rossi, Marc Marquez rivalry. Rossi's saying, if he has no respect for me, I have no respect for him. I don't feel safe on the track. Marquez is destroying our sport. He absolutely went hell for leather on Marquez. And Marquez was very quiet in his media debrief. And deep down, I think that's because he knew he did wrong. And he knew that this was coming.
Well, he just had a terrible day, didn't he?
This is going to run and run now, Leicester. This is going to be on Austin, Le Mans, where both riders go relatively well, Mugello, Catalunya, Assen. It will go on for the rest of the year now. There will be no forgiveness. That was the last straw. They shook hands in Catalunya 2016 when Valentino Rossi beat him in a head-to-head. there with a couple of laps to go. They shook hands at the end of that, and you think, well, it's all over now. No, it's not. It really isn't. Not now. That has just completely blown any respect that was left from either of them to another. Forget it. They are arch enemies now, on and off track.
Well, they kind of always were touted to be that anyway, in the media anyway. It just never really sort of
took a couple of years to start, and then
it never really went away. I mean, as Rossi, if he's to be believed anyway, didn't really talk to Marquez since 2011, did he say?
2015, since the Malaysian Grand Prix. The weird thing, I don't believe that, really. One, because they shook hands at Catalonia, as I said, and at the start of the year, when Marquez was second, Rossi was third, and Andrea Dovizioso won in Losail, Qatar, they were on the podium having a selfie together. So I just don't think it was. I mean, when Valentino says he has no relationship with Marquez, he may not have a strong one, but there must have been something there, because if they really didn't like each other, it would just be the same as Rossi versus Gibernel all those years ago. And while we're on that subject, before everyone says, yeah, well, Rossi used to do that.
Yeah, well, Rossi used to do that.
He did used to do that, but it was a calculated risk.
Oh, that's the difference, was it? Oh, was it?
Marc Marquez was just loose. He was an idiotic lunatic on race day.
So,
okay?
are you disagreeing that to make calculated moves is okay as long as they come off?
Yeah. Valentino Rossi very rarely made a move that was so outrageous that in the middle of the race, or towards just before the end of the race, that it caused a massive incident. It knocked someone off. Valentino, as far as I can remember, in the mid-race, only made one ridiculous move. That was on Marco Melandri, going down into turn 1, 2, 3, 4, turn 5 at Motegi in 2005. Now, that's because he ran in the back of him. Similar to what Binder did to Navarro, actually, in the Moto2 race. In Jerez, 2005, people say, yeah, well, Rossi ran Gibernel off the track. But that was for the win. That's a bit different. Valentino was arriving at the apex. Gibernel turns in. Rossi's already there. There's nowhere for either of them to go apart from make the apex, and they came together. That's racing. That is a last corner, last lap, do or die lunge. Now, that's acceptable. That's racing, and it's bloody hard racing, and sometimes it ain't very fair when you're on the receiving end. However,
so what are we moaning about
then? That move was reckless.
Yeah, but as you just said, sometimes it's not very fair.
There was no need to do it like that. Valentino's move in Jerez 2005 was last corner, last lap, win it or bin it, do or die. That wasn't. There was a good 6 laps for Marquez to go, and he was going 2 seconds a lap quicker. There was no need to make that move. If you disagree, let us know in the comments.
So what I heard there is that it was okay when Rossi did it because it worked and it came off. But Marquez shouldn't have even tried it, even though if it had worked, it was still a dick move.
Yes, but the problem... What I'm getting at, Valentino actually put himself in a position in 2005...
Regardless of whatever position it was for when they were racing.
To make a fair move. Gibernel left the door open and Valentino made a move. There was no door open there. Well,
he opened the door. He barged it open.
Well, you can't do that. You can't just ride through someone. I'm sorry, but I think we're going to come round in a minute anyway to those of you who haven't seen the picture. Well, first of all, where have you been? But in a moment, we will come round to Jack Miller, I believe, on the starting grid, the one where his hands are in the air. We'll talk you through that. That's Valentino picking up that Yamaha M1. Britain's Cal. We was meant to be doing a tribute for the last 10 minutes. That ain't happened, has it?
We will.
We've got James Espoli on in 5. So
I want to get back Cal and mention. Incidentally, I was looking up the tweets from Stuart Higgs and regarding I think what Simon Hall mentioned earlier. He wanted to know what Stuart Higgs' his opinion is because he's always got some. He's always usually spot on with his thoughts and stuff.
Exactly. He's one of the best race directors I think that there is around.
Mysteriously, he didn't tweet. I'm checking if he replied to anything. Nothing since the 8th of April.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe if there was, it had been deleted. I don't know. I've not seen anything, but strange, that one.
Yeah, but I think either way, just coming back to that incident with Marquez, that was the last straw for Marquez. Not just in his relationship with Valentino, but
which he says he didn't have anyway.
Yeah, it was the last straw in terms of race direction. Could not give him a hard penalty for that. Lots of people calling for race bans. Lots of people calling for a back of the grid start the next race. Don't agree with the back of the grid start race ban. Just quickly, that's the picture. Look at that. That is a completely empty grid. Jack Miller, what the bloody hell's going on here?
Yeah.
His team around him just don't know what to do, and that's the end result.
Yeah, it was.
But back to that, I think race direction just had enough. They had to penalise him. Marquez has done this for ages. It's a miracle he got away with the 2011 Moto2 incident with Ratapak Willerup, the Thai rider in Phillip Island, just ran in the back of him. And Simone Corsi, 2012, it's Valencia. It is a miracle how he has not had some sort of race ban yet.
I mean,
and I tell you,
everybody makes mistakes. Don't they?
Yeah, come on. Yeah, not them. Three.
Apparently, Rossi doesn't make mistakes because
Not
he's a
saying
legend,
that,
and it was all right because he's always going for the win. Rossi. But when someone else tries it, and yes, it didn't necessarily work. He shouldn't have. He shouldn't have even bothered trying because he's. How dare
you're putting words in my mouth now.
I'm just going off what the internet says, that's all.
Yeah, exactly, because you can't think of your own opinions, I reckon. Anyway, getting back on track, unlike Marquez, who's carrying on going off it, if he continues riding like that, I have a very funny feeling there is going to be a serious penalty coming for him. Because it wasn't just the 3 times in the race with the start and elation with Valentino, it was qualifying, it was free practice, it was 5 incidents across a whole race. People picking out 4 dodgy manoeuvres by Valentino over his career. 5 in a weekend for Marquez, and that doesn't include all the other ones he's done before. Sorry, it's not enough, it's not good enough.
It's not good enough, it's not good enough. Marquez, how dare you even try and think about...
If you're watching, Mark, don't you call me though.
Yeah, he's definitely not watching or listening. But
yes.
I want to know, especially if you have any opinions. Yes, it's midweek, and yes, you've probably already expressed them all over the internet. But why not tell us again? Anyway, we want to know. Angie Wood says Marquez was reckless. Says Angie, and Rob Forrester says, "What's the difference between Marc Marquez and Johann Zarco?" Go.
Johann Zarco's move was nowhere near as physically violent, I think. Sorry to sound like Crime Watch, but I just do not think that Zarco went for a move and it wasn't reckless. He made the apex, turned a bike, didn't run too far wide. Danny Pedrosa decided to turn the taps on and get on the power a bit eagerly on the wet stuff, and that's what spat him off. I mean, yeah, I suppose I can see where people are coming from. But again, if we're going to look at it like that, just quickly before we get James Spolian, we're going to have to go back and look at the Marco Simoncelli Danny Pedrosa incident from 2011 at Le Mans, because really that wasn't Marco Simoncelli's fault either. So they're letting Zarco off for causing that crash,
even though Pedrosa got a broken wrist or a whatever it was.
They didn't let Marco Simoncelli off at the time for Danny Pedrosa's broken collarbone. So very, very conflicted, I think. I mean, I know we're a few years away, but yeah, it's... I think race direction in general is like one of those weekends to forget, and I hope that they move on. Keith Hewen put a tweet out about he's embarrassed because he's got a lot of friends in race direction. But... yeah, we'll get on to Cal Crutchow's tribute later anyway, because it was a fantastic ride.
Definitely, yeah. And because I always like to see try and see try and see both sides of things. Like I say, it's often the case when there's an incident unfolding and we're well in the heat of the moment, sort of thing. And we're shooting our mouths off on Twitter. I've never done that personally, and Kiko's certainly never done that. But things can get a little heated sometimes, is what I hear. And in the cold light of day, it's a lot easier to look back and think, yeah, okay, they are human, something happened which was out of their control. They didn't know that the riders were all going to storm off the grid. What should happen? It was one moment where they got a bit flustered and didn't stick procedurally to the rules. I'm told that technically they did stick to the rules, but we know what happened anyway. So I do have a bit of sympathy for race direction. Anyway.
Well, so do I.
So, that was. But let us know if you've got more sympathy. Yes. Simon Hall gives you a bit of a challenge at the weekend, Kiko, while you're at Brands. He wants you to go and quiz Stuart Higgs and ask, get you to ask him what his opinion was on it all. He didn't quite say, I dare you, double dare you, but I think it was inferred anyway. So, excellent. So, we'll leave that as an open question, I suppose, for now. Right, so this is the Superbike Show. My name is Lester. Kiko is here with us, and we are live right now on a Wednesday, usually on a Thursday. But Kiko's got other commitments on a Thursday. What are you doing on a Thursday, by the way? I don't know.
We're travelling down. Well, I'm travelling down because I can be bothered to Brands Hatch.
Fantastic, yes.
Because I'm going to go and talk to James Rispoli. Because if we can't get him on now, Lester, there's going to be no point, is there?
Funny you should say that, because please welcome onto the Superbike Show. It is Mr. James Rispoli. Hi, James.
What is going on, guys? How are we doing?
We're sort of picking the bones out of the weekend in MotoGP and trying our best to be not outraged at it. I'm sure you've got your own thoughts, but...
we want to hear them, actually. That's the first question. James, Argentina GP shenanigans. As a rider, what did you make of all that?
Well, what part of the shenanigans do we want to speak about first?
We'll start. If you was Valentino Rossi or Aleix Espargaro, how would you feel with Marquez's actions?
Well, I mean, Rossi, for sure, you can't give him his points back. So, he was in a solid, I think 6th position or 5th position. So I think that's a bit tough for anybody. You can penalize Marquez all day, but you can't give somebody their points back. Aleix was not even in the points, so I think it's a little bit less for him. He didn't crash, but regardless, I think Marquez was a bit over the top, with so much speed in the bag. Honestly, I think he was, he didn't need to make moves like that, a bit impatient, a bit like the old Marquez, where there was no patience and let me pass everybody as soon as I see them in any corner possible. So, in other words, maybe a bit strong moves, but, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Everybody runs in those situations, and it's, if I was Rossi, I'd be pissed. He's been in, situations with Marquez before and, hasn't come out good ever, it seems like. So I don't really think it's very good. I think people probably are a little bit less Marquez fans now, but, as well, if anybody was going to make a move, it would have been Marquez. So...
Do you agree with some fans that are saying, he needs a race ban or a back of the grid start? Would you carry the penalty onwards to the next race in Austin, where we know he's strong?
I don't know. I'm not race direction. I think that it's hard to carry it on. That's not my skill set. I'm not race direction. I think it was really strong. I think he was rode a bit way over his head in my point of view. I don't think he needed to make moves there, honestly. I mean, he had so much speed in the bag, and I don't think he needed to. So I don't think they can really penalize him further on. But at the same level, they need to, make a stand. There's no real kind of clear cut. Everything's a racing incident. It's just going to continue to keep, going and going and going. At the end of the day, we're racing, we're rubbing, but, 3 times in a race, or, multiple times, multiple mistakes, multiple errors. It's like, come on, there needs to be a penalty at some point. But I think it's a very, very tricky situation. But I think he was definitely over his head and way out of line on a few of those moves, for sure.
Okay, well, I don't want to hear anything else about the Argentine Grand Prix until it comes again next year. So we're going to move on to BSB now. New team for you this year, returning back to Supersport, EverQuip Racing. That's a good challenge for you, that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Stuart, every yard, he's a legend pretty much, and I think he's part-time rocker. We've got a band we've set up. No, he's a legend. The team's really, really good, amazing. We've got, crew chief Andy Jameson. The bikes he built are amazing. He came from Martrain. Obviously, they're tons and tons of success. So we've got a lot of confidence with him. And, I've always wanted to kind of work with him since my second year at TTC. And it just never kind of happened. And to be able to come back and work with a guy of that stature is pretty amazing. So the whole team, the vibe, everything about them, they're really, really down to earth. It's so easy to get along in the team. The vibe's amazing. The atmosphere is just, there's no pressure, but at the same time, we're there to just win and crush everybody. So it's a weird, I know it sounds weird, but it's like the best thing you could have because, at the weekend, we tossed away a third place, but, the team was just super supportive and we were able to come back and get their best result, I believe they've had. So, to come back with a fourth and really start a championship hunt now is pretty good. And I think, it has a lot to do with their team atmosphere. I think that's the biggest thing they have at the moment. Obviously they have, some of the best bikes you can put on the grid and all that jazz, but I think the atmosphere is what is going to, really give this team so much success.
You've come off a couple of, I think it's fair to say, difficult years with FS3 and before that tag. We're not getting into that now, but was it a clear-cut decision to return to Supersport on an R6? We know you like the R6. You've had podiums, I think 6 podiums in 2015 when you was last in the championship. Was it a clear-cut decision to say, yes, we're back in Supersport?
I don't think anything's clear-cut. Obviously we want to be in Superbike, but at the same time, I don't want to be running around the back anymore. I want to get on a competitive bike. I want to be competitive. I want to be winning races and showing everybody what I can do. I've raced a fair amount of years and raced in a lot of championships and whatnot, and I still want to be in the British Superbike paddock, hence why I'm still here. I think it was a good move because of, the people that are involved, the biggest reason, that I'm in Supersport on the competitive bike is because Andy Jameson, he builds some of the best R6s in the world. And that's one of my biggest, confidence boosters that I have is I went to a team, it's pretty funny. Me and Stuart, we never met until before the week before testing. I signed a contract and everything without never meeting a team owner. I think that's pretty insane. But I had so much confidence in Andy on the machinery, and he, gave me a lot of comments saying that they're going to be the bikes that they had with Martrain. So, that's why I think the 600 move made so much sense to me because I knew we could easily get on a competitive bike. I knew the bike was going to be good, and it was, all right, James, are you in a good place or a bad place? And I think we've shown coming out of Spain, we had pace. And then at round 1, we showed we had some decent form for, not riding a 600 for 2 years. So, I think all the cards added up. And, sometimes you need to take a couple steps back to move forward. And I wouldn't say it's a step back, but I think we just needed to take a few steps, rein it in, go back. We know we have the speed. We had it before. Nothing's changed. We're on a good bike, good package, straight to the front.
Is the 2015 James Raspoli back then? Are we going to see you at the front most weekends, every weekend, on an R6, knowing that you're yet to win a Supersport race? Is this year going to be the year?
Well, this is where I think I've learned from all those years and experience to say, yeah, I'm going to smoke everybody X, Y, and Z. It's racing. You know what I mean? So we've come in with a better attitude. We finished 4th. We crashed out of a 3rd, so I think the speed's kind of back. Obviously, we're still behind Curry and Kennedy, but I don't think that's, I don't think that's far away. They definitely show they had speed. They're coming off last year of riding 600s at the front. Sorry. From
have a high side.
I almost dropped the phone.
Oh, God.
Other than that, I think, I've got a bike that's, I think, doing more than what I'm showing at the moment. And towards the dry sessions, we showed we could be in the podium positions. And to be honest, yeah, I think we will win a race this year, if not a few. I think we're going to be on the podium a lot. But at the same time, if we walk out here with 2 fourth places, again, dude, points in the bag. I'm happy. I know the tracks that I'm really, really strong at, and, Brands is one of them. And there's not many places I haven't finished on the podium on a 600. So I think we can do it everywhere. So, we're kind of just going to take points like I did in my 2 championships that I won. And we literally, finished on the podium every single weekend, and we took points all the time. So it was, it's just what we got to do.
Exactly. That's what points make prizes, consistency makes prizes. But we're going to move away really a bit from BSB now. We're going to talk about America. You are, along with PJ Jacobson, probably the last 2 big American exports onto a big recognised domestic championship, and for PJ onto the World Series. Why is that? What has America not done since the likes of Wayne Rainey, Kevin Schwantz, and John Kaczynski, and Colin Edwards, and Russell, What have they got to do to get that many riders back in a World Championship?
Well, you forgot about Jake Gagne, who's on the factory.
Jake Gagne, yeah.
I can't get my hat straight. I think it's insane. It's like, because I'm talking backwards to you, it's gnarly. So I can't get my hat straight.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so Jake Gagne is obviously on the factory Honda Red Bull World Superbike ride. So I think it's just, crossing the pond. It's very expensive to start the year. People, like, for me, I don't have, this year, so I'm pretty lucky I get to live with Ellison, but generally we don't have, a family here. It's a lot of expense to get here. We don't have vehicles. I think the startup cost just to be in England is, enormous. I think that's one of the reasons. We've got a little kid, Brandon Pash, who's racing the Moto3 class here, and I watch him, literally doing what I did, 2 suitcases over here, living on couches and people's houses over here, riding borrowed bikes and riding everything he can to try to get across. I think he's doing it the hard way like I did. And I think it's money. We don't have in America at the moment a pipeline. We don't have a fund. We've got talented people that could probably come here. Did that again, bud. Talented people that could come here and do well. I just think we don't have the support to be able to do it. We don't have, there's no money. There's no sponsors that will come across because they're either in their series or they don't want to be involved at all. And it's not like it's over here where, the series seems like it's been built on, the working class, you know what I mean? And what I mean by that is the sponsors here are, you've got Smith's BMW, construction firm. You've got, you know what I mean? Like, everything's like working class sponsors that are in businesses that spend money instead of, say, give it to tax man. I think in America it's a little bit different there, and I think we don't have, say, a business over there, a real estate firm that is going to spend, $200,000-300,000 for a title sponsorship that is tough to get because they're in America and they don't see how popular the series is. I think that's the big reason behind it has to do money and the opportunity. It's tough. It's really, really tough. It's really tough to come over here and do it. And, like Josh Aaron did, he went over and rode, a great Moto2 ride. But unless you enjoy and love traveling and want to eat weird food and, get an icky stomach every once in a while and be on different time zones and live out of a suitcase, this isn't the life for you being an American. Because, like, when I came over here, it was like, I driving on the wrong side of the road. I was putting the Suzuki vehicle in the freaking hedge and, didn't know where to shop for food. Like,
yeah.
It is, like, it's a big, big change. And, you've got no friends, no family. And when you're waking up at 7 a.m., there's nobody up. You just you're alone. So it's tough.
Yeah. What is that though? I mean, like, what? Because, like I say, we've had the load of Americans have come over on the World Series, European Series, So why is there now that mentality of some Americans or the less Americans that aren't willing to come over or can't get in that mindset of, I will live out of a suitcase, eat dodgy food, like you say?
Well, I think you've got, I mean, brutally honest, you've got the 4 factory bikes over there, and they're getting paid cheddar that nobody can else pay here for them to come over and win. You know what I mean? Like, to get on a competitive package here, you either need to be on, like, there's 10, 11 bikes that can win. I mean, over there, you've got 4 bikes that legitimately can win because they're 4 factory bikes. And those guys are getting paid cheddar. Why would they leave over there? Why would they leave? They're at home. They fly into a race. They do a little bit X, Y, and Z, 20 laps here, 20 laps there, walk away, boom, making dough. You come over here and, like, I think it's pretty, it's pretty crazy that you can, be on, like what Hickman did on the Smith's BMW, or, even what, people are doing on, like, say, privateer bikes, that, the series has allowed people to be able to win or be on the podium. And I think that's, you don't have to have all the massive amount of money to do it, like the big budget teams. You can still do it as a, like a semi-privateer, because it's all kind of privateer here. And I think that's some of the reason you've got the top dudes on the top bikes with money over there, and then everybody else doesn't have money to get over here, and there's no opportunities. Like, I don't care who you are. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for anybody to show up and race Oulton Park or Cadwell Park and then put it on the podium Superbike. Like, I just don't see that happening in a weekend. Like, the tracks are too tough. Things, unless you're on, a factory bike here, which, what is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Factory supported bike. What is that? Like, more Ohlins? Like, give me a break. You know what I mean? Like, like there's parts, but it's a perfect example, McCams and Tag. I mean, one's got all the bells and whistles. The other one has enough to do the job right, has what they need. But you look at last year and look at what Ellison did this year, at round 1. I mean, it's crazy to be able to do that. In America, you don't have that. You've got factory Yamaha, factory Suzuki, and then the rest that are trying to throw a program together.
Yeah, it's a massive difference in between the machinery and also in opportunities to come and make your career work over on another part of the world. Last question, then back to you, James. Can you be British Supersport champion this year?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Shaky Byrne didn't finish any points last year before he, won the championship last year. I think that's just a given. I think if we do it, it's a Cinderella story. I think it would be amazing. I believe, the first American to win a British championship, not Superbike, but a British championship. So that's the goal. Am I going to sit here and say the same baloney that everybody says every year? I'm going to win the championship. I'm going to do this, do that. Like, whatever. Who cares? We're going to take every race by race. We're going to grab as many points as we can. We're going to move forward. And at the end of the day, if we win enough races, if we're on the podium enough, dude, I want to be holding the crown and be,
looking at
the haters, going like, "Yeah, what's up, dude?"
That's it. That's the end of the main part. Now we are doing something a bit different. I did warn you earlier. There's going to be a quiz involved. So the quiz basically starts now. Now it is out of 14 points. Now Michael Laverty is the leader of this league so far. He's got 10 out of 14. We've got no chance. Your last question will be timed as well, so you'll have 30 seconds to do whatever. I'll tell you in a moment what the question is. So, question 1, James. Who was the last American rider to score a British Superbike podium?
It would have been John Hopkins, right?
Yeah,
it was
last year?
Last year, yeah.
Silverstone, correct. So you've got 1 then. That'll do very nicely.
Oh boy. Wow.
So we're on 1 out of 14, but of course there's 13 more points to get. So there's time. Who was the last American to win a British Superbike race?
To win a British Superbike race, it'd have to be Hopper again, no?
Correct. That's 2 points. So we're doing all right.
Yeah, keep asking me Hopper questions, the Iceman.
Oh, I'm afraid the Hopkins questions have just finished, James. I hate to inform you. We're going to go on to you now. Your first podium in Britain was... your last podium in Britain was in 2015 at Silverstone. And who was on that podium with you?
Glenn Irwin, and because we had a big old scuffle in pit lane, and... Who was the third place? I have no idea.
You've got to take a guess. Anyone?
Third place. It would have been. 1 second. Who was there? I don't know.
Samuel Hornsey.
Sam Hornsey.
Yes.
What?
Nearly.
I was in front of you. I was in front of you.
Oh, was you? Is it the lag time getting in the way, was it? Time zones, I suppose. What was this scuffle in pit lane, just before we go on? What was the problem with Glenn Irwin in pit lane? So he's on next, of course.
Oh, no, yeah, he loves it. Well, it all started at Cadwell, but then we kept going on because he was... I was moving over him going into the last left. I forgot what corner it is. Is the left before the long right on this front straight, off that straight, not hanger, but you go down the front straight, and I was moving over, and I was really good on the brakes, and he lost it. He lost it. And it was in the podium, and he lost it, like screaming at me. I was laughing. He cracked me up, the old Irishman.
Okay, I'll make a point to that for him when he comes on.
Oh, right, no, so he'll remember.
I'll make sure he remembers. I'll let him know, just in case he's not watching now, of course, which he might be. But next question. Now you can get 3 points for this. You're on 3 already, so you're not doing bad. You're doing better than Ben Curry was doing. Ben Curry's on 5 points at the moment. So 2 more.
Curry. Nice.
So 2 more, and at least you'll beat him once this year. We can guarantee that if you get these next ones. So, the last American 1, 2, 3 on a MotoGP or 500cc podium.
Wait, all of them together?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Who was the last? What was who were the riders who made up the last All-American MotoGP podium or 500cc podium?
But it was at one race, and they were all on the podium at once.
Yeah, 1993. That was the last time. So,
I don't know.
Say 3 random American riders.
Yeah, well, you've 3 American riders. I don't know when. What's his name? 1993. Schwantz, Lawson, Rainey. I don't know.
You got 2 out of 3.
I don't know when. I don't know when. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the third one. I don't know.
You've got Kevin Schwantz and Wayne Rainey.
Yeah, and then what about? Was it? Kevin. I don't know. Kaczynski? Yeah.
No, not quite. He was he was the winner of the Australian Grand Prix the year later. But the American you didn't get was Doug Chandler.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have got him. I don't really. Yeah, no, he's. I don't know. That's dude. I was 2 years old, man. Like, come on.
I was -6 at the time, but I suppose we'll let it slide. Right, I need a timer now. So where's Lester with his 30 set? There we are. That looks nice, doesn't it? League of Knowledge.
League of Knowledge.
Yes, right. You have 30 seconds. That timer will start ticking down when I finish this question. So, since 1990, there has been 7 American winners in MotoGP and 500cc. You have 30 seconds to name them all, starting now.
Schwantz. You've got Nicky Hayden. You've got Lawson. Kaczynski, I'm guessing. You've got who else? Only MotoGP?
Only MotoGP.
Who else do you have? Dude, I don't know. I'm blanking. Dude, I don't know. Frick.
Time up, James. Time up. I've got to say, you got 4, which is more than half, so you're not doing bad. You said Kevin Schwantz, John Kaczynski, Eddie Lawson, and Nicky Hayden. Now, they are all correct.
Why didn't I say what's his name? Yeah, keep going.
So, Wayne Rainey, you missed out.
Yeah, of course, right? I just mentioned him.
Kenny Roberts Jr.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
And Ben Spies, the most...
Yeah, that's the old Texan. Surprised I missed that.
Did get 9 out of 14, so you are right up there in leaderboard. I think that puts you about 3rd.
Boom.
So that's a responsible AV.
How you like me now, Curry? What's up?
All right, I'll leave you. I believe you're with James Ellison now, so I'll let you get on to whatever you're doing. And thanks for coming on the Superbike Show, James. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening, my team EverQuip, and the whole JR fam, the Army. You guys are legends.
Just make sure we haven't got any last questions. Don't think we have. That's it, James. Thank you very much. Well, I'll catch you at the weekend.
Yes. Peace out, guys.
Soon.
Have a good one.
His ahead of Zarko will not have a chance to get through. Crutchlow is the winner.
Okay, let's begin.
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
Yes, it is the Superbike Show. My name is Lester. Thank you very much for tuning in. And we are live right now on a Wednesday night. Kiko Giles is here paying full attention, aren't you, Kiko?
I'm just checking the comments, actually.
Yeah, because
if you want me to ignore everyone, I'll do like that. I'll do it.
No.
I'll do it anyway. So.
I mean, there's not much of a difference between this show and being on social media. I mean, all we're doing really is reading out people's messages. Have we got any messages, by the way?
Well, I don't know. You just called me out, Lester. So I don't know. Have a look yourself.
All right. It's at M Sport Radio, by the way. If on Twitter, and it's Motorsport Radio on Facebook. Or you can use the comments box in the box below wherever you're listening to this. It is a visual radio show by Motorsport Media, and it's not TV. Just because we do get asked quite an extraordinarily high amount of times, well, what's the difference between what you're doing and what radio? Aren't you radio? But you're TV, though. But I can see you, so you're not radio. Anyway, but yeah, visual radio. And James Rispoli, great guy. And the first person
from America on our show
to also come on the show on camera as well. So
first person to come visually on a radio show.
Fantastic, excellent. So we did have loads of stuff lined up about talking about the winner of MotoGP, who I correctly predicted, by the way, last week. I'll play that later. And also getting through to other things as well, but we just didn't have time because Kiko's huge rants, they go on and on.
They don't.
They literally do. But yeah, because we've now got to have a chat with our next guest. Who is the next guest, Kiko? Tell us.
I believe it's Glenn Irwin, winner of a British Superbike race last year, showdown contender, showdown position holder so far after round one, as Lester quite rightly predicted after last week's Superbike.
Did I predict that as well?
You did as well, you did, yeah, you're in there, smug.
Okay.
Watch it. And also, I think, for me, Glenn Irwin, winner of the best ever Northwest 200 finish ever.
Did you hear that, Glenn? Best ever finish.
I did indeed. That's a nice compliment.
Well, I tell you, like I say, every time I still get a bit, the hairs stand up on my arms when I see that last lap. They really do. It was a thrilling one, I've got to say.
But yeah, welcome. You're live right now, Glenn, on Motorsport Radio, if I didn't tell you already. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be invited back. Thank you.
No problem, Glenn. How was your dinner, by the way? What did you have?
The dinner tonight was actually really good. I'd done a yoga session, and you're always starving after because we do the one in the Bikram, which is a lot warmer. But the missus had made a Thai prawn red curry and such. And she made a suggestion, do you want to get some naan bread for it? So we done it properly, and I called into like the sort of best Indian, the local town, and grabbed two fresh naan breads. Probably one of the smaller takeaway orders, but he did say it's not uncommon for people to do that. So It was actually very good. It was lovely.
I'd like the way you introduced that bit, just before we come on to the questions, that it was actually quite nice tonight. Are you implying that it isn't anyway? Every other night?
No, it was... sorry, I had a bit of a splutter there. No, I'm quite lucky. He's always making good grub and whatnot, so apologies there. It's nice,
okay?
Nice to get a bit of a curry in us before we head away. So
Yes.
yeah, it was good.
All good. Right, okay, on to the real stuff then, the important stuff of British Superbikes and motorcycle racing. 2018 plans, well, they've started off very well, if you can get it to Brands Hatch without choking to death before you get there. But no, 2018 started well, top 6 so far.
Yeah, it was steady. The way I see it in testing this year, I myself have definitely stepped up and been able to be quick over a run, quick over a lap, which is something that I struggled probably in the last 2 years in Superbike to do. Definitely all things that I improved, but obviously coming into Donington Park, we all seen the forecast. We all knew the risk of will we race, won't we race, with tyre temperature and suggested track temperature. And I think we all knew that Stuart would do the best job he could do to put on a show, and whilst keeping rider safety, paramount as such. And I think he did do that. But obviously my weekend got off to a real bad start when I had a high side on coming out of Goddard's just towards the end of free practice 1. I think we were sitting quite comfortable in 4th, and yeah, I thought about not going back out at the end of that session, but we did have relevant data and something to try. And unfortunately, I ended up in the back of an ambulance off to Queen's, where I did get the all clear. We had a bit of a scare when it was announced that I had a broken neck, and I could clearly see that on the X-ray, but it turns out it was a fracture from Knockhill last year, which is since healed over with ligament as such. So there's no complications whatsoever. I had a bit of a tight back throughout the weekend. That's where I was more certain that my fracture was my lower back. So it didn't really hinder me on track, other than no more so than the already cold conditions that we had.
Yeah. I just want to come on to that point where you said about you being in the ambulance off to Queen's Medical Centre. Now, you had a really bad injury last year at Knockhill. Did you think that this is happening all over again? Did you think, another year where I'm injured?
Yeah, do you know what? It was different. It was probably more. If the word is scarier, that's not in a frightened way, but I don't mean the crash. I mean the thought after, because at Knockhill, everyone's dislocated. Not everybody, but a lot of people have dislocated arms and shoulders and whatnot. And yes, I did do mine extremely bad, along with fracturing it. But I knew there would be a recovery plan, and one that could be sped up. Within it's happened before in racing, and people have returned quite soon, and that was not so bad. I'd started the season well before it, so I wasn't too. I was disappointed, but not too disconcerted as such. But then with this one, when they showed me the X-ray, and the first doctor, who, let's just say, he was excellent, but he's a non-understanding doctor of the motorbike arena as such. I think he doesn't travel with the BSB circus as such. So he said, you won't ride for 6 months. I'm thinking, oh my word, I have my son, I've got my family. What am I going to do? Obviously, the Northwest is in 5 odd weeks. I'm going to miss that. How am I going to earn my job for next year? And that is a really, really not cool feeling, being truthfully honest. But that's changed as the results, and results kind of revealed that it was an older fracture, so that was a huge sigh of relief.
I can't even imagine that from you. Like, just to think that first round of the year, dodgy conditions, and already a bit of last year has already creeped in with the injury, and you're looking down the barrel of, what the hell do I do now? I mean, we started off with this show anyway with the Northwest 200, which was very good last year. Can we see a repeat performance in 2018 because you are back there?
Yeah, definitely. I always go to the road racing with the attitude of respecting what I'm doing and what we're all doing when we're at that event. It's extremely dangerous, and that needs no introduction whatsoever. But I do go with that mindset, and I keep that there. I then work about where I can add in some pace, where I feel is like a low risk area of the circuit, and that's where I try to make my time. So yeah, I have a lot more to give. Like where I lost time last year is where I felt like I didn't want to. I was actually happy to lose time just to the nature of them corners. So we can raise the bar up a little bit there, and I think in general I can raise the bar of the whole event. But I also think a lot of people are capable of doing that with me. The nature of the track keeps the group quite tight together. But there's nothing I would love more than to pull the pin from lap one and to win it convincingly. And I like riding in my own round there. I trust myself, and that way is the way I feel safest.
You are probably one of the busiest British Superbike riders because you go off and do the Ulster Grand Prix as well. Am I right in saying that? Yeah, I haven't been to the Ulster now in 2 years, but it's another one that I've done, in a busy schedule. Another great event, lovely circuit. I haven't done the Isle of Man, but I presume it's a bit like the mountain section. It's not very residential, but a great track and a great road surface. But for me, it's one that I've never won. I was leading it a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, we lost a rider in that race. So I don't dwell on that. I don't be annoyed that I didn't win it, given the scenario. But it's one I'd love to tick off the list. But being honest, I never will. I'm scaling the whole road racing thing back now, and just the Northwest will be the only event that I will do. And even at that, I don't know how long I'll keep doing that one for as well. It's interesting you say that because obviously we was completely devastated last year about the Macau Grand Prix, and I think it was your reaction that was probably the most moving part of all of that. Did that event that happened at last year's Macau put you off now? Is that drawn the line for you?
Yeah, it was a big factor. Like, obviously, I grew up with my dad being a road racer, and we were always he done his best as a dad to keep us away from road racing. And it was 4 sons. I am the only one that has done it, but often we would look through the winners list of Northwest and that. You can so easily go through them, and you can go like not here, not here, not here. Here, but not in great shape, or lucky to be here. And it's until you see something like it, it's fine reading that and going through them statistics. But once you see something in real life, like what we saw in Macau with Dan, was that to me, my instant the reaction that you guys all think. You have seen the photograph that Stephen Davison took, but
yes,
my thought at that time was just, what am I doing here? I'm so far away from home, and I thought of his 2 boys, because I thought of, I could relate to the terrible situation that he was in, because I also have my own son as well. I thought, no, this is, what am I doing? No, it's wrong to say it's wrong because Dan was there, doing it. So I don't mean it like that, but when you see somebody, that an incident like that's happened to him and whatnot, and you have your own family, it's I think for me, if that doesn't strike home, I don't think anything ever would. So that's when my decision was. Don't get me wrong, in the heat of the moment, yes, but one that won't change outside of the heat of the moment.
Yeah, it's kind of brought it home enough for you to say that's enough. On to a more brighter subject. I don't want to dwell on all of that for too long. Obviously, it's your third year now in the British Superbike class. Is there a chance that we could see you on a World Superbike grid at Donington Park this year? Is a wild card a possibility?
It's something that we haven't even thought of. We did see Jake do it last year, and no doubt we could go and do a good job. But being honest, my goal this year, my sole goal, is to win the British Superbike title. I think so far I've proved I have made a positive step, in the direction of doing that with our pre-season, and that is all I'm concentrating on. Yes, I have the Northwest, but I worry about that when it's the week of it, and then that one will be put to bed as such. But no, the Donington wild card, I will be there. I'll be there watching my younger brother Andrew, who's now on board Supersport, and we hope to. There's a Team 109 that I'm involved in from Ireland, and they give kids from Ireland the chance to race across the water without charging some of the fees that the teams nowadays charge. So yes. I'll go, and we're hoping to get Ewan McGlinchey, who actually won the first junior Supersport of the year at Donington Park. We're hoping to get him a wild card in the World Superbike version of that junior Supersport. So I'll be there helping him and helping Andrew.
Well, that's brilliant. So it's might not necessarily be you, but at least you're having some role in it all. You mentioned just then about your sole goal is to win the British Superbike Championship, and that brings me on to the last question of this part of the interview. Can you beat Shane Byrne in the championship? He's the reigning double champion. He is a fierce competitor. He has won 6 titles now, so that's a tall order, but at the same time, you know how he operates. You are probably one of his longest-serving teammates. I mean, if it comes down to a last lap scrap for the title, can you beat him?
Yeah, if it came to a last lap scrap, I would fancy myself against anyone. That's something I enjoy, is digging deep, and it's not often that I go in the last lap and no matter what position we're back, be on the receiving end of it as such. So. Yeah, can I beat Shaky? Yeah, it's a big thing to say when, being honest, I haven't really beaten before, but, year 1 was learning, year 2 was sport by injury, and already this year in testing we've been equally matched, and we have a great friendship. Like, when I say I can beat him, I don't mean it arrogant, or I don't mean it or I'm not respecting what he has done and continues to do in his career. I don't mean it in any way like that at all, but if I didn't think I could beat him, there'd be no point in me being on that bike. I believe I can beat them all, and yeah, that's the plan this year. And hopefully, if you speak to me after this weekend, I've kick-started that.
Let's hope so. I know you said that you can win races this weekend. That's the main part of this interview done. But since you was last here, we have started doing this thing called the League of Knowledge. Now, basically, I put some questions to you, and you've basically got to tell me the answers. It's a bit like a quiz, I suppose. It is a quiz. We'll start now, and we will have to only do yours out of 7. So we'll have to do the other 7, I don't know, in a couple of weeks' time, I guess.
Right.
But your first question, this is a to be confirmed League of Knowledge section for Glenn, because I was a bit unprepared, I must admit. But your first question, you were the first Ducati rider to win the Northwest 200 big main race. Since who and when? Who was the last Ducati rider at the Northwest 200 to win a race there in the main class, and who was it?
That's really difficult, and the reason being, I know Carl Fogarty won it in '93, 25 years ago, but I'm sure Michael would have won it on a Ducati. I'm going to go. I know Carl won it 25 years ago, but I'm going to go with Michael. The year 2006.
So is that your final answer, Michael Rutter, 2006?
Yeah.
You're correct with Michael Rutter. He was the last Ducati winner, but it was in 2008. So just a couple of years shy. I believe in 2006 he did win the race because Steve Plater crashed out at the chicane, or it was the year before, and then Michael Rutter won that year anyway in some class. But last Ducati rider was Michael Rutter, but it was 10 years ago this year. So yeah, that was the answer to question 1. You wasn't a million miles away. Second question, your first British Superbike podium. That was in Thruxton, 2016. Who was first and second?
First was Michael Laverty and second was Jason O'Halloran.
Impressively quick, yes. 2 out of 2 there. So we're on 3 so far. Okay. Third question. Your first British Supersport win, I believe, came from pole at Brands Indy in 2014. Am I right?
Yeah, my first British Supersport win was round 1 of 2014, race 1 in atrocious conditions.
Yes, horrendous. It rained all weekend. Okay.
I think Luke Jones was second. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Well, he may have been, but who was second and third on the grid? Because, like I say, you qualified on pole. So who was alongside you on the front row?
Oh, what conditions? Do you know what? Graham Garland was one of them. Wasn't he? Where did he get injured? When did Graham get injured? Graham got injured beginning of 15. Graham Garland and Luke Jones.
Graham Garland, yes. You've got the wrong Luke, though. Luke Stapleford was the other rider.
Ah, right.
So,
right.
Oh, no, yes, it's more or less the same person. It could be for anyone who's not watching or doesn't know about bike racing.
They're both about 5 foot nothing.
Okay, we'll let one of them take you on, and we'll give you the result of that. So what are we on at the moment? You've got 3 to make that 4. So last question on tonight's show. We'll get you back on hopefully before the Northwest, actually, and we'll get your thoughts ahead of it. How many podiums did your brother Andrew Irwin get in British Supersport last year?
Oh, let me think. There's 24 races. I would say he had 16 podiums.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
The correct answer is 15.
15.
One away. Well, I suppose we can get
to 15 or 17, but it was a complete guess.
Yeah, you're not far away. So, but either way, 4 out of 7 so far, and you've got the big 30-second question to come when you're next on. So, that's not going bad. That's not going bad at all. Before
I'm going to Brands quite confident now after that. I feel mentally quite sharp here after that little quiz.
After 14 points worth of questions, Ben Curry only managed 5. So don't feel like you're doing bad. There's worse ones out there. Hello, Ben, if you're watching. We're not shaming you on this show at all. But before you go, I've got to ask you something, because I don't know if did you listen in before you came on, or was you too busy eating your Thai curry?
I didn't get a chance. I was in yoga, and then I was away collecting visor stickers and whatnot for the weekend, so I did not know.
Okay, because James Sproley brought up a little story about Silverstone 2015. Can you just elaborate on that?
I presume, was he talking about on track, me and him, yeah?
Yeah, something happened. He, in his words, you was proper screaming and shouting at him or something like that.
Yeah, basically, we had for sure I had the pace to win, and I don't think James's pace was that bad, being truthfully honest either. But Stapleford was dominant that year. He was doing an incredible job. Yes, he did have the best bike by a mile, but he was riding very, very consistent and laying down some impressive lap times. But I think it was a turning point for my season. It was at the very end of the year. I, along with GearLink, had decided we would try some new components on the bike, and the theory was I already knew where I was going. That was to Paul Bird Motorsport, but to improve their package, because I have a good connection with them for them going forward, and which it did. But James just kept making lunges, which he's entitled to do. It's racing. We don't need to sit like Skeletrics, but for me, I was so frustrated with that was one race I felt like I could have won, and I'm sure I went out the next day and won, if I'm correct. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I went out and won race 2.
Yes, I think you did. I think James was getting at that you had a bit of a fallout or something, but
look, there was words said. It was. I listened to Sebastian Vettel the other day defending Lewis Hamilton, and it was such a good answer to a journalist. The journalist tried to get at Hamilton about his relationship with Verstappen or comments he made, and as Vettel said, if in Premier League that you had a voice recorder on every footballer, do you think that they just say nice things throughout the whole game? Heat of the moment, you're competing, there's adrenaline, and the answer is of course not. So Sebastian defended Lewis in that, and my reaction with James was the same. I was adrenaline fueled, I was frustrated, and not in the sore loser way. I was frustrated because I genuinely had the tool to beat Luke Stapleford that weekend, which was proven to be a real hard task all year, and I did. I proved that by leading start to finish. I led every lap on the Sunday, and that's. I think that justified my frustration, but there was no. I apologised to James via the live Eurosport interview on the Sunday. They got to me in the grid, and I just said I want to apologise for the way I reacted yesterday. But that shows passion. There's one thing you can't create in somebody is hunger. You can tune somebody's talent up a little bit, but you can never buy hunger. And I have a lot of it, and sometimes I show it. But that is what it is.
That's it. There's nothing wrong with a bit of passion. Before you go, got one question for you from a fan, Ashley Tedford. Glenn Irwin, do you think Brad Ray is going to be tough competition this year? He was like a little whippet at Donington Park.
Yeah, I think he's going to be tough competition. Yeah, but no more so than the other 15 lads that I believe can win in British Superbike. I think, there's a lot of tabloid stuff at the minute, but for me, if I worry just about beating Brad Ray, we could go to the Brands Hatch and Brad could be 5th, 10th, 1st, wherever. And that's showing my respect to the entire grid. There's a lot more than Brad Ray out there. Donington was extremely cold and strange conditions. Do I think he can do it in a normal dry weekend? Of course he can. But like I say, I think another 15 lads can as well. So Bradley is one of a number of extremely fast, talented motorcycle riders in the British Superbike Championship. So yeah, do I think I can live with him? For sure I do. But the other 15 will probably say the same.
Glenn, I look forward to watching this unfold over 2018. You said you're pumped up for Brands after your little quiz. I'm pumped up for the rest of this season after listening to you. Glenn, as always, pleasure to have you on, and when we get you back on, we'll finish that quiz.
Nice one, thank you very much. In the meantime, I'm going to go and do some studying because God knows what you're going to ask me next.
Glenn, cheers and all the best.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Now. This is Motorsport Radio. Join the conversation and have your say on motorsport-radio.com. Motorsport Radio. The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
Fantastic stuff to have Glenn Irwin back on the Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio, and he's more than welcome to pop along anytime he actually wishes. My name is Lester. This is the Superbike Show. This is Motorsport Radio. We are live right now. Thank you very much for everyone who has tuned in and stayed tuned in. You're doing pretty well, I'd say. We have a couple of other people listening, and everybody who has... We try to get to everybody's comment, we really do. Obviously, time runs away from us sometimes, and obviously certain things like quizzes and whatnot have to be asked. And Kiko, that quiz that you seem to be priding yourself on, I noticed there was a question missing. Why was that?
Well, to be quite honest, okay, me and Lester have been run off our feet all day, bringing you the new graphics. No, bringing you the graphics, okay, on the other side. Can we have them back up now, Lester? Can we have the graphics up? And we will demonstrate for the visual radio listeners. There we are.
Done a couple of standings, but why didn't you do the quiz?
Sky Sports, you have not inspired us on these at all. There you are. We've been working very hard to deliver you an extra dynamic, an extra feature on our show.
I've been doing that.
It's more.
I've been doing that.
It's me.
So, yeah, Kiko.
But anyway, let's go back and do something useful, please. Anyway, I've been working very hard to put in all that data, make sure it all looks very neat, and
I had to remind Kiko as well that I actually control the show, being the show's producer, and if his ego started to get a bit too much, I could always just turn him down and let you know that he actually forgot to write. I didn't have time to do that. This is the Superbike Show, and we do have a couple of nice new graphics, and they were. I did them. What was you saying, sorry?
Go on, sorry.
No, I've said my piece. I've said it. But
no, off you go. You've got a link into the next. I'll tell you what. Can we flick that over to the Moto 3 stand?
Can we indeed? That is a good question.
Let's have a look. Excuse us, ladies and gentlemen. We're just testing it tonight.
No, we're not. We're fully, totally, absolutely aware of what we're doing. Boom.
The Moto 3 standards. So, let's have a look at them. So, Leicester, Aaron Canet,
very best. Yes, Aaron Canet, leading the championship.
Jorge Martin second, Marco Bezzecchi third. Just take it on from there, Leicester, fourth downwards.
Because Kiko's not wearing his glasses. Di Giantonio, Fabio. I
told him I'd throw him under the bus this week.
Lorenzo Dalla Porta. Didn't he play for Chelsea? He's in fifth anyway. Niccolo Antonelli in sixth place. Oh, they are small text. Rodrigo in seventh in Moto 3. And this is like an eye test where they all get smaller as they go down. Adam Norridin in 8th place, and Bastianini in 9th, and Alonso Lopez in 10th. What else do you need to know?
Well, shall we do the Cal Crutchlow little piece? But before we do, a couple of things I want to just get out there because we haven't got them out there yet. The ACU has refused the Oliver's Mount circuit up in Scarborough a licence to run the Spring Cup. Now, the Spring Cup is a very popular festival at this time of year. Thousands of fans descended onto Scarborough each year for it. But this year, the whole event has been thrown into jeopardy because the ACU hasn't given its licence. Now, that only came out yesterday. We're waiting. There was some improvements that were required to be undertaken.
Do we know what those improvements were?
I can only imagine it would be something like spectator safety because the fans are quite close to the track. Runoff is another, but it's a road circuit, so I just worry about that a little bit. So yeah, Spring Cup might not even go ahead. So very sad news. I know I've got a great friend up that way who always covers the Scarborough events, Wendy Williams. So. All the best up there. Let's hope we can get that out. We need more road racing, not less of it. And while we're on road racing, news coming out yesterday about Bruce Anstey, the Kiwi fought off cancer in 1995, and it looks like it's returned. So Bruce Anstey, the New Zealander, missing the whole of this season, it looks like. And I think all of us here at Motorsport Radio, and we speak on behalf of everyone in motorsport, Bruce, get well soon, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. It's nothing. What can you say? there's not much else to say. But everybody at Motorsport Media and Motorsport Radio, stick with it.
Come back stronger.
Exactly.
Come back stronger.
Yeah.
You are a fan favourite. Everyone loves Bruce Anstey. Never met someone who doesn't. I certainly do not have anything against him. Brilliant rider. Fantastic guy, so laid back, he's horizontal most times. But all the best. So that's the bad news out of the way. Shall we get on to some better news, like a British winner in MotoGP that we haven't had since Sunday?
Oh yeah, talking about that as well. Considering like most of the show has been, the first hour of the show was talking about all the controversy and hyperventilating over Marquez and Rossi and blah blah blah. Yeah, not to actually neglect and fall into the same trap that all the other media, BBC, why didn't they ever talk about British rider, blah blah blah. We've done the same thing, but understandably so, because it was a special Grand Prix. But if you didn't know, there was a British winner, and you should have known because I predicted it last week on this show right here. I did.
Oh, I thought we was going to play it then.
No, I don't have that quite ready yet, but I will get it.
I thought you was going to be so smug and... I thought, no, he's not. Surely he isn't, and he didn't. But no, Cal Crutchlow. Fantastic result. Must say, I did have a little pound on him. I did have a pound on Cal.
A pound?
I did have a pound. 14-1, Cal Crutchlow on B-Win. Listen, this is... While people will go on, rightfully so, about the Marquez Rossi incident, it's a huge point. It's what the sport is formed around those two. Cal Crutchlow leads this championship now, yes, by, I think, 3 or 5 points, something like that. He's on 38. First time since Venezuela, 1979. Barry Sheehan it was then, leading the championship. That was the last time Britain had a British rider on top of the World Grand Prix standings.
Remember it well.
Well, so do I. 48 years ago, 49 years ago, nearly 50 years ago.
Not quite 51 years ago, though.
No, not quite.
I'm getting further away than 52. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it was such a momentous. It was such an amazing Grand Prix. For everything that happened at the start and before the start, during the race, and at the end of the race, not with the fallout and everything, plus the Cal Crutchlow win, which I did predict, by the way. And then for this weekend.
Go on then, since you always get it right.
No, don't set it up like that. This is going to be the podium. Okay, Cal Crutchlow for the win. Boom, said it right here on this show. You all right there?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the warning in my ears here. No, brilliant result for Cal. And me and you can relate to this, Lester. Not winning a Grand Prix, but we work in Cool Fab. And
the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship.
I'll say it. We work there. That's what we do. And I see the likes of Casey O'Gorman, Ollie Walker, Sullivan Mounsey, Luca Hopkins, all the youngsters, Josh Bannister, coming through. They want to be in the World Championship. And it's no longer the message of you can be like Rossi, you can be like Marquez, Lorenzo, Pedrosa, Dovi, etc.
You can be like Cal.
You can be like Cal Crutchlow. And people will laugh when we say that, but it means so much to Britain to have someone not just winning a race, but to be consistent like Cal has been, to be at the sharp end like Cal's been, to win again and again like Cal has been doing, and to lead the championship. As I alluded to, 49 years ago was the last time we had it. Scott Redding threw away a championship in 2013.
Hi, Scott.
We had Danny Kent. We've had Danny Kent in 2015. But Danny Kent doesn't ooze Cal Crutchlow. I mean, Crutchlow to me...
Gotta be careful what you're saying.
Is the working class lad. You just know that Cal is a Brit. You just look at him and think, British. Cal is so Carl.
That's not very complimentary, by the way.
No, it is. You can, people will go on about PC and knows how to talk and do all this, but Cal does not care. He's that no-nonsense attitude that Brits loved when it was with Foggy, and they're going to love it again with Cal. I'm telling you, Crutchlow, weirdly actually, nearly 10 years ago, on the 5th of April, Cal Crutchlow took the lead of the World Supersport Championship. He won the title that year. What day are we on now? We're on the 11th, so 10th, 9th. On the 8th of April, 9 years later, Cal Crutchlow took the lead of a World Championship.
Yeah, I know.
Just a thought. I am maybe being a little bit optimistic here, but I think he can do it. I think if he just keeps up there, let's everyone, to borrow a phrase from Shakespeare, whilst everyone else loses their heads around you. Out of Macbeth, that was. Something like that. Cal Crutchlow.
Such poetry, Kiko.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow, such culture.
Well, Shakespeare wasn't a poet. Playwright. Crutchlow.
He was a poet and he didn't know it.
Oh, goodness Lord. Oh. Crutchlow, anyway. I forgot what I was going to say.
Be more like Crutchlow and thou shall win more races.
Crutchlow kept his head in a very, very difficult situation. You know, Marquez blew it. Rossi lost his head after the race. The whole motor, you had Marquez who lost his head, Rossi lost his head, Alicia Spargo's lost his head on Twitter. The whole MotoGP paddock's completely lost the plot, and Crutchlow's just cracking on. Love it.
Keith Hewin did comment at the time during the race that whilst, I forget exactly the two riders that were in front of him, was it Miller?
Rins and Zarco, or Rins and Miller and Zarco?
Whoever it was at the time. And he was noticing that a couple of riders were sort of like looking a little bit on edgy and kind of looking a bit scary, almost about to fly off in these still slightly damp conditions. He commented, Keith Hewin, that actually Cal was the only person who actually looked totally on it, made absolutely zero mistakes that we seen anyway on camera. Yeah, a win for his reward.
Unbelievable. Well, first Brit, like we said at the top of the show, since Mike Hailwood, 1963, that was, when Mike Hailwood won the Argentine Grand Prix in the Premier class. Another statistic, had Jack Miller won, it would have been the exact same statistic, because it would have been the first Italian or non-Japanese manufacturer to win the Premier class Argentine Grand Prix since Mike Hailwood in 1963.
Or if I'd have won, it would have been exactly the same statistic.
Well, nearly.
So, yeah. Anyway, let us know if you have any thoughts about Cal.
We don't have very long left of this show, so shall we cram in World Superbikes and BSB? Quick.
Yeah, let's do that. Yes, let's indeed do that.
Right, BSB is this weekend. Brands Indy, fast, furious, frantic, just absolute one of the best tracks I think for spectating because it is so ruthless, it's so unforgiving. Kidney bean shaped, that's obviously a good thing. And Bradley Ray goes into his home round, his local round, as championship leader ahead of Shane Byrne. Not by 4 points, not by 5 points, by 19. It's a big gap between first and second. Behind all of them, can we have the graphics up? Actually?
Oh, Gordon Bennett. Yes, we can. I was not doing something else. I was graphics. Yeah, just carry on talking. It's not like we're doing radio or anything.
No, of course. But no, so the gap is relatively small between everyone else. As you can see, if you're watching here, if you're listening, I'll read it out. Dan Linfoot's 2 points behind Shane Byrne, and it's Leon Haslam 2 points further back. So the second to fourth is quite close. Then there's a relatively sizable gap. Luke Mossey, Glenn Irwin, James Ellison, and Jason O'Halloran and Danny Buchan. 5th to 9th, covered by 3 points, and it's Larity, Christian Lynn, Jake Dixon, Josh Brooks, and so on and so forth. So that's the BSB standards. What I want to draw people's attention to is it's going to be very interesting on numerous things. Bradley Ray, can he continue his form? Josh Brooks, can he get back at the sharp end? Can the McHammers team get back up at the sharp end? Can Glenn Irwin win the races like he said he can? Can Shane Byrne deliver? Lots of questions that need answering. And British Superbikes, be tuned in Eurosport all weekend.
He did say something really interesting that I picked up on when he was on earlier, Glenn. When asked about, I forgot exactly who asked it, asked him a question about Brad Ray, and do you think Brad's going to be a challenger? And he said, well, I forgot exactly what he said, but he said something along the lines of, well, I'm looking out for like a whole load of guys, as we know, anybody could win each particular race. But if I just focus on one particular person, that particular person might be finishing down in 10th. So
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of opposition in BSB this year. I'll tell you another rider to keep an eye out on, Danny Buchan. He is going to be quick, I feel, this year. 13th in race 1. Nothing really to shout about Donington, but 4th in race 2 and beat Shane Byrne in that head-to-head. I genuinely think Danny Buchan could be a series challenger this year for a showdown spot. In the other class, though, we'll get on to British Supersport. Ben Curry's leading by 10 points. I think he's on perfect score of 50. Ahead of Jack Kennedy. James Swelly, who we had on earlier, is 9th. So keep your eye out for the American coming up through the grid. Tom Oliver was an impressive debutant at Donington Park, ahead of Ross Twyman and James Westmoreland, who stepped back in their class, having been runner-up in 2016. If you carry on going down, some familiar names: David Allingham, Bjorn Esmond in 13th, and a couple of rookies down there as well, Dan Drayton. But no, lots of big names. Tim Neve in 8th place as well, one of the Neve brothers. On stock thousands, if we can have that graphic up as well. At the moment, it's all about Billy McConnell on 41, but the gaps are a lot closer here. Billy McConnell on 41, Keith Farmer 37, third is Joe Colley, he's the first of the Aprilias. Andy Reid is just behind Josh Elliott, and expect the Morello Kawasaki's to go a little bit better this weekend because they have solved their teething issues. Fraser Rogers in 9th place has actually got only one teammate left now because Braden Elliott won't be at Mission Racing anymore. They have party company, so that was via a Facebook post from team owner Russell Owen. Going down, some loads of familiar names here. Alistair Seeley just 10th. Lee Jackson is in 12th. In between them is Jordan Gilbert, who had a phenomenal first round on the IMR BMW. And if you carry on going down, Ben Godfrey, as I said earlier, 16th place. Sam Clark, the last of the point scorers, in 18th. Just a quick mention to stock 600s while we're on 600cc category. Ryan Vickers is the leader of that because there's only one race and he won the first race. So Ryan Vickers ahead of Kevin Keys. That's the first 2 riders in that one.
Exactly. Yeah, well done for rounding out the old standings there, Kiko. Just in case you're wondering and you've not bothered to check out the BSB website.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the standings as they are going into Brands, the, as Kiko calls it, the kidney bean shaped. Kidney bean.
Well, it is.
Which is the black pudding shaped circuit then?
I suppose that could be Rockingham, really, couldn't it?
No,
if you took out the infield.
Thruxton.
Also, yeah, good shout.
A question rolled in earlier from Sean Newstead asking earlier, why are there more British riders at the top in World Superbikes? Something that we've talked about before, I think, but only Cal so far in MotoGP. Why do British riders struggle to get into MotoGP, asks Sean.
I think the main reason for that is because opportunities just don't come Britain's way. Cal took a very big opportunity with Yamaha Tech 3. He'd won World Super Races in 2010, so the opportunity came and Cal took it. Cal used, I wouldn't say use his brain, but used initiative to think this could be better in the long run. If I just get my foot in the door, I know I'm a good rider and I'm going to prove that. I'm on a 2-year deal, so in the second year, once I learn all the new tracks and how a MotoGP bike works, I'll be able to. Big thing as well helped that MotoGP in 2012 switched back to 1000cc, so that's what Cal was used to riding anyway. As for why other riders haven't made it, Scott Redding and Bradley Smith have come up through their own class, but no one will want to go. I mean, you just have to look at Johnny Ray. No one wants to go to MotoGP because they know that they can win in World Superbikes. If you've got Chaz Davies and...
Well, not everybody.
Well, no. If you've got Chaz Davies, Tom Sykes, Johnny Ray, all up the sharp end, Neil Camia now on a Honda. If you've got all of them up at the sharp end in World Superbikes, why would you want to come over and risk your career, get lost in a MotoGP paddock? It's a bit like what James Espelli was saying earlier, actually, with the Americans. Why would they come over here when they're being paid perfectly good money to ride around winning a national championship. It wouldn't make sense. So, yeah, I think that's the reason. Although Johnny Ray's had an opportunity to come over and didn't take it. I don't think he'll get another one, though. We'll wait and see on that. But, yeah.
Did we talk so far about the MotoGP rumours that are floating around in the air?
We haven't. We better cover that quickly before we run out of time and you get pummeled with all sorts of abuse for going over the 2 hours. Jorge Lorenzo looks like he's off to Suzuki. Looks like he's blown his Ducati career because he hasn't performed.
Because you put the kibosh on him.
No, he put the kibosh on himself by sign as I pulled myself away from the graphics there. Not a very inspired Jorge Lorenzo, I must say. Looks a bit down in the dumps, doesn't look like he's going to get on. I said on the show in the pre-season, Jorge Lorenzo needs to be scoring 60 points, 70 points by round 2. By round 5. You can't score 70 points by round 2. But by round 5. Le Mans is really when we start judging. The silly season has started very, very early this year. Jorge Lorenzo scored 1 point from 2 races.
Oh.
1 point in the last 3 races, if you include Valencia. And he crashed out there, holding his teammate up. So, you got to wonder why would Suzuki want him?
Well, he's a good rider and stuff.
He might be on a Yamaha. That's all we ever knew him on. And he's gone to Ducati, and it's not been the fairy tale we thought it would be of goes over and gets a podium or 3 or 4. He's had a few last year, but it's not it's not culminated in a championship challenge. So Jorge Lorenzo off to Suzuki. That's the rumour. That's almost done. 90% confirmed. I read earlier. So Alex Rins is more or less bob on to stay. That means no ride for Andrea Iannone. Well, I've got reliable sources that have never let me down before. That he's back to Ducati. So if he goes to Pramac, both of those riders are going to be out of Pramac because Pecco Bagnaia comes up next year. So where does that leave the likes of Danilo Petrucci? I've got to say I think Petrucci will get the factory Ducati ride. Don't think anyone else can ride it. I would have said last year maybe Alvaro Bautista, but he's flat. He's not up there this year. So Jack Miller's ride is now in jeopardy. So where does he go? Repsol Honda, they look like they're getting Zarco. Where does that leave Danny Pedrosa? KTM? Maybe World Superbikes. And I can't say that'd be a bad thing.
Interesting. What about Mark VDS, perhaps?
Mark VDS, all about whether they're going to stay with Honda on the outdated machinery or move up to the satellite Yamaha team. There is no doubt about it, Dorna will want a satellite Yamaha team. They want every team to have satellite teams. Aprilia need one, Suzuki need one. At the moment, Yamaha need one, and I don't think that they'll mind jumping on board a Yamaha that is working as a satellite bike, but it bloody ain't working as a factory bike.
All right, so a couple of last scans of any messages that have rolled in. We seem to have a nice full show tonight, I think, with James Rispoli being on and Glenn Irwin once again, and your comments. One final comment from Liam Hill, who's tuned in or still tuned in, saying Lorenzo will still bring money and interest to Suzuki. That's their appeal, I suppose. They need another Viñales to get them back up to former glory, maybe, says Liam.
I think they've got their other Viñales in Alex Rins. I really think that Alex Rins could be the rider to take Suzuki to a win this year. I mean, I can't remember the last Italian rider on a Suzuki to win a race. Answers on a postcard, preferably on a tweet, though. Racking my brains, can't think. Last non-Spanish Suzuki race winner would have been Chris Vermeulen in 2007. Loris Capirossi never won one on Suzuki. Do some digging on that, but either way, I don't think Iannone can be there. I think he'll come stronger than he did last year when we get out of these tricky little first rounds that are just not worth reading into much. But yeah, Jerez, Iannone doesn't go very well at. Le Mans and Mugello are going to be, if he can pull a result out of the bag there, I think he'll be strong. But interestingly, we go to Austin next in a couple of weeks. Of course, we'll talk about that a bit more later. And the next show, Suzuki had a 4th and a 5th there 2 years ago. That was their best result, a double top 5. While we're on MotoGP, though, we've had a lot of fallouts, really, haven't we? We have had a few fallouts. We had Marquez and Rossi.
Oh, in MotoGP?
Yeah, on and off track, Rossi and Marquez. on track Danilo Petrucci and Aleix Espargaro. And now got Aleix Espargaro flapping his handbag around with Xavier Simeon, the Belgian rookie, up to the class this year.
Why?
Have we got the screenshot on you? I don't think you have it, have you?
No, I don't have that.
It is on our Facebook page. So if you have a little look, Aleix Espargaro has blocked Xavier Simeon
I know
on
the
Twitter.
One. Yeah.
So, all is not well in MotoGP at the moment. Everyone seems to be falling out.
Oh, well, one thing...
Brexit for you.
Good thing we're ending now, isn't it? One thing that's all well and good in this world, Kiko, I want you to give us a little bit of a speech as we end the show, all about, and how could we end the show on anything other than a Cal Crutchlow tribute?
Well, I must say, Cal Crutchlow, you've put Britain back on the map anyway. You've reconnected fans into a sport that British fans loved anyway. But we've had a drought. We're not going to lie, we've had the drought. We didn't have a British race winner since 1979. We didn't have a fast British rider really in MotoGP for a long time. Then Cal Crutchlow came along. Cal Crutchlow has absolutely delivered. He's been one of the very few riders in the world that's made a successful transition from World Superbikes to MotoGP, not the other way around. He has done it with a lot of hard work, as does any rider who wins a race, but he's done it in a satellite team. You know, it's not been easy for him, but there he is. If you're watching live on the video, the Argentine Grand Prix was his in 2018. He now leads a championship. Doesn't get much better than that.
Crutchlow is ahead of Zarco, will not have a chance to get through. Crutchlow is the winner.
Okay, let's begin.
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.